Every story leaves something behind. A whisper, a shadow, a question that was never answered. Here, we dig through the forgotten files, the unsolved mysteries, the chilling true crimes, and the horrors people wish had stayed buried. From haunted legends to real-life nightmares, every tale is pulled straight from the horror archives. So turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and step carefully, because once a story enters the horror archives, it never truly leaves.
Corn mazes are one of those things that shouldn't be scary. They are a full tradition. You go with friends, you get lost for a while, you laugh about it. But when you're alone in one, surrounded by walls of corn taller than you, no landmarks, no way to see what's 10 feet in front of you, something primal kicks in. These are 3 true stories sent in by viewers who went into corn mazes and came out different. The first story is called The Scarecrow That Moved Rose. This one comes from Ohio, and it starts with something simple: a scarecrow that keeps showing up where it shouldn't be. What makes it disturbing isn't the scarecrow itself, it's what was underneath it. The scarecrow was on my left the first time I passed it. I know that for certain because I had just turned right at a dead end, and it was directly across from the gap in the stalks where someone had trampled through. This was at a farm about 40 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio. October of 2021, my girlfriend and I had gone on a weeknight because she hated crowds, and the maze was essentially deserted. It was one of those massive ones, 8 acres, the kind that takes an hour even if you know the route. The corn was over 7 feet tall and still green enough to block all light once you got past the first few turns. There were no overhead lights, just the occasional post with a dim orange bulb that barely lit the dirt at your feet. We were maybe 20 minutes in when we hit the first dead end. That's when I noticed the scarecrow. It was mounted on a wooden cross, burlap sack head, flannel shirt, the usual. It had these button eyes, big black ones, and its mouth was stitched into a wide grin with what looked like real thread. I remember thinking it was a nice detail. We doubled back, took a left, then another left. Maybe 5 minutes later, we hit another dead end, and the scarecrow was there. Same one, same flannel, same buttons, same grin. My girlfriend didn't notice at first, but I did. I told myself the maze probably had several of them. That's normal. We kept going, but after the 3rd time, I stopped walking. It was at a T intersection this time, mounted right in the center where both paths split. The stitched mouth was different. It was wider, like someone had pulled the thread tighter to stretch the grin further across the burlap. I pointed it out to my girlfriend. She agreed it was creepy, but said they probably just had a few variations. We turned left. The path narrowed. The corn was pressing in from both sides, and I could hear it rustling even though there was no wind. I turned around to say something to her, and over her shoulder, maybe 30 feet behind us, I saw the top of the scarecrow's head above the corn. It was not mounted on a post. It was moving, slowly parallel to us, just the top of the burlap sack head gliding along above the stalks. I grabbed her hand and walked faster. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to panic her. When we reached the next turn, I looked back again. The head had stopped. It was just there, motionless, barely visible in the dark. We made it out about 15 minutes later. I was nearly jogging by the end. When we got to the exit, I looked at the farm employee sitting by the gate and asked how many scarecrows were inside the maze. He said one. It was near the entrance. I told him we'd seen it at least 4 times in different spots. He just kind of looked at me and then passed me into the maze. He didn't say anything. On the drive home, my girlfriend mentioned something that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said that the last time she saw the scarecrow, the one at the T intersection, she could see where the burlap met the neck of the flannel shirt, and there was skin underneath. And the next story takes things a step further. This one's called The Group That Wasn't Ours. It comes from Pennsylvania, and it's about a group of friends who entered a corn maze as 5 and came out with a number that didn't add up. We started the maze as a group of 5. When we came out, there were 6 of us. This happened in October 2022 at a corn maze in central Pennsylvania. It was a fundraiser for the local fire department. Big maze, maybe 10 acres, cut fresh that season. My friends and I went on a Saturday night. There was me, my buddy Derek, his wife Kayla, and 2 friends from work, Sam and Trina. 5 people. I remember because Derek made a joke at the entrance about how 5 was a bad number for a horror movie. We all laughed. The maze was busier than expected, so we kept running into other groups. About 20 minutes in, we hit a clearing, a little rest area with hay bales and a water jug. Another group was there, 4 college-aged kids. We chatted for a second, then moved on. 15 minutes later, we reached a long straightaway. I was near the back and I did a mental head count. I counted 6 silhouettes ahead of me. I assumed one of the people from the other group had accidentally merged with us. It happens in a dark maze. I called out, "Hey, I think we picked up a straggler." Derek turned around and counted. He said he only saw 5. I counted again. 6. But the weird thing was, I couldn't figure out who the extra person was. Everyone looked familiar. Same jackets, same builds. I told myself I'd miscounted and kept walking. A few minutes later, we reached a fork and stopped to decide which way to go. We were all standing in a loose circle. I looked at each face. Derek, Kayla, Sam, Trina, and then there was someone standing between Sam and Trina. A man average height wearing a dark hoodie. He wasn't talking. He was just standing there looking down at the ground. I said, "Hey, are you with us?" Nobody answered. Not him and not any of my friends. They were all looking at their phones or talking to each other like he wasn't even there. I tapped Derek on the shoulder and pointed. He looked right at the man and then looked back at me and said, "What?" Like he didn't see him. The man slowly raised his head. I couldn't make out his features. It wasn't just dark. His face seemed wrong somehow, like the proportions were off, like his eyes were too far apart or his mouth was too low. I took a step back. He took a step toward me. Same foot, same timing, like a mirror. I said, "We need to go, right now." I didn't explain. I just started walking fast toward whatever path was in front of us. Everyone followed. I kept checking behind me. He was still there at the edge of the group, walking at our pace. When we finally hit the exit, I pushed through the gate and turned around to count everyone coming out. Derek, Kayla, Sam, Trina, 4, just 4, 5 total including me. No one else came out behind us. I asked if anyone noticed the guy in the hoodie. Trina said she thought she saw someone, but figured it was another group passing by. Sam said he didn't see anyone. Derek and Kayla had no idea what I was talking about. I went back to the entrance and asked the attendant if anyone was still in the maze. She checked her clicker counter. She said everyone who went in had come out. I asked if she was sure. She showed me the count. It matched. Whoever that was, he wasn't counted going in. And this last story is the one that stuck with me the longest. It's called The Voice from the Row. It comes from someone who worked at a corn maze in upstate New York and found something inside it that shouldn't have been there. I'll warn you now, this one is hard to shake. I found a child's shoe in the middle of the corn maze, and that wasn't even the part that scared me. This was late October 2019, a farm in upstate New York. I was working there. I was 19, hired seasonally to be one of the scare actors. My job was simple. I'd hide in a hollowed-out section between 2 rows and jump out at groups as they came through. I wore all black, had some basic face paint, nothing elaborate. The maze closed at 11, and my shift ended at midnight after I walked my section to make sure no one was left inside. It was the last Saturday before Halloween, and the crowd had been big. By 11:30, the maze was officially empty. I started my walkthrough. The farm had given us flashlights, but mine was dying, so I mostly navigated by memory. I knew my section well. Every turn, every dead end, every row. That's why I noticed immediately when something was wrong. Halfway through my section, there was a turn that shouldn't have been there. A gap in the corn, freshly cut, leading into a row I'd never seen. The stalks had been severed cleanly near the base. Recently, because the cut ends were still pale and wet. I should have radioed it in. Instead, I stepped through. The row was narrow, barely wide enough for my shoulders. It went straight for maybe 40 feet, and then turned sharply to the left. The air was different in there, warmer, and there was a smell, faint, like copper and something sweet underneath it. That's where I found the shoe, a small pink sneaker, child's size, sitting upright in the center of the path like someone had placed it there carefully. It was clean, no mud, no dirt, which made no sense because the ground was damp and soft. I picked it up and turned it over. There was something written on the inside of the tongue in black marker, but it was too dark to read. I pocketed it and kept going because I thought maybe a child had gotten lost. I called out, "Hello, is anyone in here?" Nothing. I took the left turn. The row continued, and then I heard it. A small voice, a child's voice, coming from somewhere inside the corn to my right. Not from the path, from within the rows themselves, deep in the stalks. It said, "Help me." I stopped. I called back. Where are you? Can you come toward my voice? The voice said help me again, but it was farther away now. Not farther down the paths, farther into the corn, like it was moving away from me laterally through the rows. I pushed into the stalks, shoving corn aside, and I got maybe 10 feet in before my dying flashlight caught something on the ground. A circle of cleared earth about 4 feet across. The dirt had been dug up and packed back down. It was fresh, mounded slightly, too small for an adult. I stumbled back onto the path. The voice came again, but this time it was behind me, close behind me, and it didn't say help me. It said thank you. The voice was not a child's anymore. It was deeper, adult, male, and it was right behind my ear. I ran through the corn, not through the path, just straight through the stalks until I hit a row I recognized. I radioed the farm. They sent 2 other employees in. They couldn't find the gap. They couldn't find the narrow row. They walked my section 3 times and said the corn was intact. No fresh cuts anywhere. I showed them the shoe. Nobody could explain it. I read the marker on the tongue when I got back to the barn under the light. It was a name. A girl's name. I looked it up later. A 7-year-old girl with that name had gone missing from a town 12 miles from that farm. In 1987, the case was never solved. I don't know what I walked into that night. I don't know what was in that mound of dirt. And I don't know what spoke to me in that voice. I do know that I went back to the maze the next morning in daylight. I found my section. I found the exact spot where the gap should have been. The corn was untouched, perfectly intact, but the ground underneath, right where the row would have started, was darker than the surrounding soil, like something underneath had been wet for a very long time.
And that's where tonight's file closes, but the archives are far from empty. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more horrors, mysteries, and true crimes hidden in the horror archives. Until next time, keep the lights low, keep listening, because you never know what story we'll uncover next.